Thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to talk about Knime and how it has enabled us to accomplish our financial mission at the Office of Financial Management at FDA. So my name is Mugila Krishnan. I am the OFM Deputy Director for the Office of Financial Management at FDA for Systems. And in my role, I'm the system owner for all our financial and reporting systems. And one of the systems that I oversee is the user fee system, which is our mission critical system at FDA. So we use the user fee system to collect fees from the industry, and we support around 20,000 users across the world. And FDA is unique in the sense that our operations are funded by user fee through a legislative mandate that we collect from industry as part of our regulatory functions. And this hybrid funding and operating strategies create some unique business challenges for us. So we needed a tool to help amplify our financial management and reporting efforts. So let's talk about some of the business challenges that we were facing at the Office of Financial Management and at FDA. So before Knime, we were using a lot of Excel spreadsheets to do a lot of calculation for our reporting needs. And this created a lot of manual, high-touch functions that were ripe for automation. And also, as a system owner, I was looking to adopt our systems to the latest technological changes and to address our business needs. So what are the things that we were looking for in a tool? So we wanted a tool that has minimal human intervention for data collection. We needed a tool to be able to import data from various formats, various data sources, and avoid human errors. We were also looking for a tool to provide historical data analysis. We were also looking for a tool that has built-in workflow engines to handle business processes. For example, for our user fee 5-year plan, we needed a tool that has built-in workflows to approve our business cases. And then once the business case is approved, we needed a tool to update our 5-year plan. We also were looking for a tool that seamlessly integrates with different business applications. So in the case of the 5-year plan, user fee 5-year plan, once the business case is approved, we needed a tool that integrates with our Hyperion-based budget applications. And lastly, we were looking for a tool that had advanced analytical dashboards. For instance, we needed what-if analysis capabilities to project outcomes based on different scenarios. We were also looking for a dashboard that gives key financial metrics, like a scorecard for our FDA exec officers to make decisions, fact-based decisions on our center and office financial performances. And after careful considerations and looking at several different tools and evaluating, we selected Knime to automate our business process. And all of this efforts culminated in our vision to a one-stop shop for all our user fee business processes using Knime. As you can see here, we have several OFM business applications that we want to automate using Knime, such as our fully loaded cost, which I'll talk about in a minute. We have our 5-year plan that we publish to the public on the financial position of our user fee programs over a 5-year authorization period. We also have the FR notices that we want to automate, which we publish the rates for the user fee programs, and the UDO dashboard that we want to automate. Basically, we use the UDO dashboard to monitor all our undelivered orders in our financial system, and then have a platform for our center users to go and annotate in Knime to deobligate those documents in our financial system. So these are some of the applications that we wanted to automate using Knime. But we're not there yet. But this is our vision for a one-stop shop to automate all our user fee business processes using Knime. So our first use case for Knime for FDA, which we implemented, was the fully loaded cost model. And we used the fully loaded cost model for several purposes, one of which is for negotiating funding requirements per FTE, full-time equivalent requirements with the user fee authorizations with the industry. We also use the fully loaded cost for capacity planning and also to cost our business cases for internal purposes. And this model is designed to update each year based on actuals from our financial system so that we have the most accurate data available for our user fee adjustment process purposes. And we get data for the fully loaded cost model from various sources. We get our obligation data from our financial system. We get our FT actual reports from our budget planning system. And we also get the CPI index data from the Department of Labor, which has the inflation information. And our user fee team spent a lot of manual hours in Excel sheets doing manual calculations and collaborating across multiple Excel sheets to develop the fully loaded cost. And this was a tedious effort, and it took a lot of time for user fee team to work on to develop the fully loaded cost. So we decided to implement Knime to automate the fully loaded cost model in different phases. For phase 1, we automated the fully loaded cost model using Knime Analytical's platform. In phase 2, we implemented the Knime server with role-based access to the FLC data. We also implemented what-if analysis capabilities where we can slice and dice the data based on several criteria. And lastly, we implemented drill-down functionalities where we can go from summary level to detail level information. And who better to talk about what this yielded to the user fee team than our director of the user fee program, Rob Marcarelli.
Thanks, Mugila. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. So, we've come along. Well, we can change the slide, please.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So, like Mugila mentioned, we've come a long way in the past year and a half or so. The vision, before Knime, it's a lot of Excel spreadsheets from a lot of different databases. A lot of my time personally spent gathering all this information, putting it all together, having to meet with other senior leaders within the Office of Financial Management, accountants to double check my work, make sure it was correct. But this tool has really changed what we do here. And the reason, just to give you a little context, I'm going to anchor a little bit of a tangent here because I think it's important to discuss really why this is so helpful for us. So this is our 30-year anniversary for user fees at FDA. So FDA, we collect over $3 billion a year from the pharmaceutical, animal drug industries, medical device industries. And we just had our 6th reauthorization of the Prescription Drug User Fee Act. So the first one was in 1992. We collected $36 million that year. The PDUFA revenue for FY23 is up to $1.3 billion. And there's a lot of costs associated with that, obviously. And in order to renegotiate these rates with industry, along with our challenges with Congress and the appropriations, because we do receive federal appropriations, which makes up about half of our budget. So user fees is about half of our budget now at FDA. So in order to negotiate with industry on certain commitments that require new hires, to exceed prior performance commitments and to continue to enhance our regulatory mission, we have to estimate and utilize sources that really guide decision making. So, like I was saying before, we were creating these Excel models. It was probably hundreds of thousands of lines, almost 1 million lines, not tens of millions of lines, but could have gotten there, I'm sure. Down to this document number, which is essentially tracking down the exact obligation that the FDA incurred in that year. And the reason why I mention all of that is because when we were trying to provide an accurate resource estimate to the negotiating partners to try to bring in more revenue for FDA to continue our mission, we have to hone in on the exact costs that we're trying to project and achieve, and also pass a sniff test in a negotiation, right? I mean, we're negotiating with industry, which is challenging from time to time. So in order to hone in on those things, there are a number, in the millions of rows that we had, there are certain attributes within there that, for example, something's called an object class code in the federal government, which basically describes what you're spending your money on. And we want to include specific object class codes, run some what-if analysis, which we didn't have before. So essentially, I'd be sitting there in an Excel spreadsheet with filters, manually checking different subledgers and object class codes, trying to hone in on the exact dollar amount we're trying to leverage in the negotiation. And of course, you're at the table with the industry. So sometimes they want to see different scenarios. The leadership wants to see different scenarios. A lot of our center people like to see different scenarios as well. And it takes a lot of time and a lot of senior level people to review this old model to really understand, this is down to the penny what we're trying to achieve here. And it would take hours to really provide all these different scenarios. So I'm super glad that we were able to implement this fully loaded cost model. It's going to change a lot of what we do, and this is just the beginning, right? So a lot of future development is in the works, but just one more thing with this fully loaded cost model. Providing this what-if analysis to senior leaders for internal business use cases, which is on top of, so that is actually dipping into a pot of money that is not in the current authorization with FDA. So we carry this money over from year to year. Essentially, it's an operating reserve to make sure that we have enough money to move on to the next year. And there are a lot of centers that want to hire more people, bring other connectivity to the FDA business to achieve the mission. And the centers utilize this automated model to help create the estimate that they would eventually bring and compile into a business use case to the oversight committee that oversees all the user fee decisions at FDA. And eventually, through the voting process, either you'll get the business case approved or you won't, which ties into the next steps with all of what we want to do with Knime, which is the one-stop shop and the automation of the 5-year financial plan. So assuming you get a business case approved, we want to add it to the 5-year financial plan so that we have a clear picture of what we intend on spending in the current year, along with the next 5 years in the current authorization cycle. So not only do we have this internal database that is depicting the costs or allocations across the agency with respect to user fee dollars, but it also, we publish a narrative document. It's around a 30-page document. We published 3 of them for 3 different user fee programs at FDA, which is also something that we're working on with this 5-year financial plan. So not only are we going to be maintaining the allocations and the information that really drive the spending at the agency from the user fee perspective, but we're also going to automate the actual narrative for the written documents. So we have this 5-year financial plan that was also in Excel spreadsheets with a bunch of different things from a bunch of different sources. You just had to figure out all these references, and half the time it broke. Really poor. But now with this, and also combining it with the external facing narrative document to accompany it, it's really going to relieve a lot of manual labor hours in our office. And it's just going to further streamline a lot of the work that we're doing. And to talk to a little bit what's on the slides, you see here, prone to errors resulting in rework, lack of version control. I mean, the 5-year plan, that and that fully loaded cost model, both of those, there's a lot of work done there, and there was limited drill down with some of those items. There not much in terms of data visualization. I mean, we have some tables, but no clear charts, graphs, a lot of the cool visuals that you're seeing, in the summit here. And it's just going to change the game at FDA. Being able to automate all this, along with one more thing that we had on the bigger vision, we have annual financial reports that we write to Congress as well. That's essentially saying what we did with the money in any given fiscal year. So that also is a very tedious manual process with their own Excel tables displaying information. And of course, the information is not centrally located, so you got to pull it from there and here and put it all together, and then you have annual financial reports. But we also want to automate those. So maybe I'll be out of a job soon. But it's gonna automate all of our outputs and really allow my staff, my team, to think more analytically and strategically, to, instead of trying to fix old spreadsheets, old documents, oh no, ref errors, put those aside, move along to this new vision where we're more lean, we're more effective and efficient, and we're more transparent with the rest of our agency. We publish, 8 financial reports every year, so it's a process, and it takes a lot of time too. So we'll be automating that. And then also, Mugila touched a little bit on the Federal Register notices that we publish annually. And you can see it on the Federal Register website, but it basically describes the calculation of how we get to that $1.3 billion that I mentioned earlier. So it's essentially it's a document that kind of walks through all the calculations that are in the statute. So that's also going to be automated. We publish, I think, 11 or 12 of those Federal Register notices. They're very tedious as well. But being able to automate all those things, it's going to make us a lot more lean. It's going to remove a lot of manual errors. And I think ultimately with the one-stop shop with the user fees, it's going to really enhance decision-making, not only for my senior leaders in the Office of Financial Management, but also at the User Fee Financial Management Committee, which is the oversight body that oversees all the user fees. I believe that's enough.
All right, great. Thank you so much. All right, so you guys heard about all the challenges, all the complexity, and honestly, we had a solution that was so simple, and Knime made our life extremely easy. I mean, as you heard from all the speakers, when we brought in Knime and started to evaluate it, it was very easy for us to make that decision, right? But just like any federal agencies, it's very complex to get an approval internally to utilize some software. I mean, in FDA, if you think of, there are about hundreds and hundreds of applications, business applications that are used, and there are thousands of softwares that are used within FDA. So in that ecosystem, how do we bring in some tool that can seamlessly fit into it, is pluggable, it's easy to use, and it can really modernize all our systems. So that's how Knime came in. And as you see in the slides, right? So our approach was very simple. We wanted to build a foundation that's pluggable, easy to use, can work very well with the ecosystem within FDA, has a great visualization component to it, allows us to do a lot of collaboration, as you've seen from many other speakers, and integrates well with all other applications. In FDA, just to kind of tell you about the complexity, they use a financial accounting systems in number of sets. Like one system is used for collection, other system is used for the financial accounting. That's at the department level. So these are all Oracle e-business suite based systems, very complex environment, right? How do you plug into those environments to pick up the data that Rob and Mugila just talked about and do the analytics and still make it easy and simple and make it pluggable. So that's the integration part. And security framework is extremely crucial. Just like any federal agency, we needed to make sure that we give the appropriate access to the appropriate user. It's a financial data, it's a data that can be very high valued, not supposed to be exposed to people who are not supposed to know it. So that was our primary principle. So we started with a visualization where we're using open source UI, AngularJS, as well as we are using React. For backend, for the data piece, we are using Oracle, and Knime acts as our lifeline, right? A lot of the data pipeline, a lot of the integration, a lot of the web services, a lot of the REST APIs, and feeds our UI for it. So with that being said, moving to the next slide. This is our architecture at a high level. Looks a little complex, but just like what I said, right? It integrates with a lot of our FDA systems, very, very complex systems, and allows our FDA users to access those systems from centers that Rob had mentioned earlier. It integrates very, very well with all the Microsoft-based systems as well as the relational database systems. So visualization, this was an important piece for our project, right? This is the visualization that's built into AngularJS framework, and we are using REST APIs to communicate, coordinate with the database using Knime to do all the calculations. On your screen, what you see is a lot of the key performance indicators. You see a lot of the charts and graphs. On the left-hand side, this is all drillable data that Mugila had mentioned earlier. On the left-hand side, you have those KPIs. Once you click on this KPI, it actually tells you how that pay cost is built, or it actually tells you how the rent is collected, or how the rent is paid to GSA, and how the actual FLC model is built. On the bottom line, bottom chart, you see how the projections work year over year, how that FLC cost is changing based on the user fees. And I have multiple slides, by the way, and we don't have enough time to talk about it, so I'm going to move really quickly and see what you guys, where we can get and get your questions also. So this is the process where we load files from various data sources, various applications, various systems, using APIs, using Excel-based data load, using web services to collect all the data. And on the click of a button, I'm sorry, and this is an important part of the whole discussion. These are some of the 9 workflows that we use. We have about 40 or so odd workflows that run behind our system to be able to generate the data that our clients are looking for. This screen shows you the what-if analysis that Rob had mentioned earlier. Extremely critical. Originally, it just took them like a few weeks or months maybe. Now they can just select the items, unselect the items, and generate the what-if analysis and maintain all the integrity of the data without having to worry about the versions, without having to worry about some fat fingering and missing some data elements and whatnot. In addition to this, so this is a roadmap that Mugila had talked about earlier. So FLC was just first application that we wanted to build just to get an approval, just to show the effectiveness and modernization of FDA's systems, right? So we have multiple applications that are currently as part of our roadmap. UDO-OR, which Mugila had mentioned earlier, it's undelivered orders and obligation review. So again, this is a dashboard for those, that application that we are currently working on. By the way, FLC is already in a production, so we are already good. We are already using it within the FDA's ecosystem, wherein these are the other applications that are on the roadmap that we will be working over the next couple of years. This is invoice processing platform. So as you guys can imagine, right? So at Health and Human Services, it's a humongous department with huge amount of money that flows out of the department, right? So a lot of the payment happen to the industry. How do we keep track of something that's related to FDA, and how can you make it how can you visualize that data component? So we put together a lot of the dashboard for this. You can see on your screen, these are all active dashboards. These are all clickable. You can drill down, you can select, unselect, and so on and so forth with this. This system connects to Oracle databases, Oracle OBIE application to pull the data from here and do the visualization on this. These are some sample scorecards for our CFO. Again, these are all live charts and graphs. When you're in the system, it shows you at that moment what is the status of each of these activities for the CFO. Right, so these are travel documents, so on and so forth. So Scott, we can take some questions now.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for the Thank you for that presentation. Come on there, microphone. I know that was a lot to cover in 30 minutes, so
Yeah.
thanks for telling us all about that. What I heard was Knime is your lifeline for a really large organization dealing with a tremendous amount of revenue and fees, and putting together basically a pipeline to be able to tell that story.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. We've got just a couple of minutes here before our break. Do we have any questions for these folks? Oh, Alex is pointing down here at the front. We'll take one here. Give us just a minute to get there. All right.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Quick question. We recently participated in an FDAX competition for food traceability that was sponsored by the FDA. My curiosity is, it seems like this was, it was focused primarily on financial modeling and analytics. Is the FDA using Knime in any other way?
I can take that question, Mugila. Yeah, I mean, we are evaluating multiple applications. Food traceability is something that we are aware of. We are looking at various different products that are available currently in the market. But Knime is, one of the solutions that we reviewed, and we're working on food traceability metrics for using Knime. Yeah.
Great. Looks like we've got one here in the middle. And while we're waiting for that, I'll just mention for you folks online, we're trying to get your questions answered online too, but hopefully we're going to have some from you here shortly. Yes, please, go ahead.
I was wondering if you could discuss a little bit the architecture. So
yeah, certainly.
What is actually done on a workstation? What is done on a server? How do you deploy? And then, having worked in large organizations, I have a second question. How easy was it to allow the IT team, or to get the IT team to allow downloading modeling applications on the workstations?
Great question. Thank you. Should I just go? And this is my area. Obviously, we had a great slide on our architecture. To start with, right, so at any federal government agency, architecture, able to work with your existing ecosystem and the financial applications, it's extremely important, right? So we were looking for some component that we can easily plug into our architecture, and it can be approved. It conforms to all the security standards supplied by NIST. So we initially went through the approval process to get that approved by our internal enterprise architect at FDA. Right? That process took us about 9 months, but once that was approved, it was very easy for us to bring Knime. We worked with some of the great folks from Knime support team to install the server. So the project started with AP, right? Started with an analytics platform, but it transitioned into server because now we wanted to get more users using our application and allow them to look at and do the data analytics on whatever the things that we are working on. So yeah. At the back end, just to close that question, right? At back end, we use Oracle database to store all the data. And in the front end, as I said earlier, we use open source UI to show you all the user interaction, all the charts, and so on and so forth. And Knime acts as our orchestration layer. It acts as a data pipeline, and it acts as a lot of the web services-based integration with other systems within Health and Human Services ecosystem, if that answers your question. Yeah, okay.
Good, thank you. And hopefully we had a question online about how you are getting data out of OBIEE. Can you answer that one just briefly?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we have a workflow that runs behind the scene. OBI reports get generated from Oracle eBusiness Suite, and that get picked up by our RPA process and gets loaded into Knime for our data analytics.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's our time for now. Thanks. Let's give a hand to our folks from FDA and Equinoxis for their presentation. Appreciate it.